Dadhood. Modern Dadhood podcast.
Hi friends, Adam Flaherty here. I'm a dad of two daughters who are 11 and 8, and you're listening to Modern Dadhood, an ongoing conversation about the joys, challenges, and general insanity of being a dad in this moment. Mark and I both have a ton going on right now, including developing a new podcast, which we're super excited to tell you about really soon. Don't worry though, Modern Dadhood isn't going anywhere. In fact, we'll be back with a brand new episode for you very soon. If you're new to the show, welcome. We are glad you're here and hope you enjoy it. If you've been listening for a while, thanks for sticking with us. Anything you're willing to do to help us promote the show and grow the show is so appreciated. That could be telling a friend about the show, texting it to somebody that you care about, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, anything to turn the show on to a larger audience. We would really appreciate it, and it would mean so much to Mark and me. All episodes are available at moderndadhood.com, so if you're looking for an episode with a particular guest or on a specific topic or subject matter, you can search in our episode archive. We can also be found on all the major podcast platforms. With that out of the way, today's episode is a rewind episode, and it's a special one, and it's one that we've talked about many times on the show. It comes up a lot as one of our favorites. The episode originally aired in July of 2020, and the guest is Emilio Delgado. Emilio is an actor best known for playing the character of Luis on Sesame Street, and it was a total delight to talk to him. Emilio unfortunately passed away not even a year after the episode was released, and for that reason, I think I feel especially grateful to have had that time with him to discuss fatherhood and being a father figure to so many people while raising his family in parallel to that. And I think it's a very appropriate time to reshare that episode and revisit it, because I think now, maybe more than ever, we need strong, positive male role models for our children to look up to. I also want to note that Emilio's son, Aram, who he shares about in this episode, also has passed away since the episode has come out, which is just terribly sad. And our hearts and thoughts go out to Aram's family and his son, Eladio. We cover a lot with Emilio. He was very generous with his time, and again, just a total delight to speak with. So without further ado, here's the rewind of our July 2020 conversation with the fabulous, legendary Emilio Delgado. Hi, Emilio. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you? Good morning to all of you.
Hello there.
All the dads out there. And hello from everybody at Sesame Street.
How is life in Manhattan right now?
It's real slow in Manhattan. Not the Manhattan that I knew when I first got here, let me tell you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Modern Dadhood. Your portfolio of work in television and in music is very robust. You've done a lot, but for us, a big part of our show, Modern Dadhood, revolves around nostalgia. And for me personally, I grew up on Sesame Street watching people like yourself, Bob McGrath, Maria, played by Sonia Manzano, Gordon and Susan. And I would imagine that many of our listeners are probably in the same boat in terms of growing up watching you on television. Uh-huh. So first off, I hope you aren't offended that much of our conversation is structured around your time on Sesame Street.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, it was a big part of my life.
So there's so much we could talk about, but obviously the subject matter of our show is fatherhood. And I'll start off by asking you, was there a time during your tenure on Sesame Street where you began to recognize the extent to which you were a positive male role model and perhaps even a father figure to so many kids watching?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. Of course, when I first started out on the show, I was a young actor, I had a job and I was out there, doing what I know how to do, acting and singing and doing comedy or whatever it was. So I was a very happy actor, individual, working in a national show, It wasn't until a few years later that I started to realize how important it was to a lot of people. And I think probably when it really hit me was later on, like maybe 20 years in, when I started out going out into the hinterland all over the United States doing live shows. And it was only then that I realized the full import of what we had been doing on Sesame Street and how we had been interpreted and received. I mean, because we were literally in everybody's living room for how long, right? So we really became part of families. And then there were some very, nice stories, beautiful stories. There were some very sad stories, latchkey kids growing up with this thing, So there was a lot of different stories that came at us. And that's when I think we began to realize the import of what we had been doing on the show. It was beyond just teaching the 1, 2, 3 and the ABC,
Your wife, Carol, actually shared with me that I know you in non-pandemic times, you do attend a lot of live events, and that people will come up to you, and maybe these are some of the same latchkey kids who you have described, or, just children who didn't have those, strong parental roles in their families. But people will come up to you and say, Emilio, you were the best thing about my childhood. How does that feel?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of sad stories out there, and there's beautiful stories as well. But to just have people tell you their story about how it affected them, it's very satisfying. Not only as an actor, but as a human being myself,
Emilio, were there times on the set of Sesame Street where you felt that sort of paternal relationship to any of the younger actors that were on the show, or could you tell that maybe they felt that?
Yeah, well, of course, when I first started the show, we were the younger actors.
Yeah.
It was not far back, But later on, of course, there were other people that came on the show that were younger than we were, Muppeteers, who had grown up with the show as children themselves. So they were very appreciative of the fact that there we were and there they were, working with people that had actually influenced them, So yeah, it was all very satisfying.
I wonder if we can shift a little bit and talk about your children. Who are they? When were they born? And what are they up to these days?
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying that, I grew up myself in an extended family of, we all lived in the same houses on the Mexican side of the border. I was born in California, but we had family on both sides of the border of U.S. and Baja California. And in growing up, my father was absent. He was somewhere. But of course, I grew up with my mother's family and uncles and aunts and cousins and grandfather and grandmother. And so that extended family was very important to me. It left a very, very important imprint on my life and how I grew up and how I think of family. And so I grew up in this extended family. And as I grew up, I never had any kind of psychological detriment. I never felt anything like that in my life. When I grew up and became a man and got married and had a family for the first time, it was an amazing thing. It was all of that experience of being a father and a husband was concurrent with beginning a career. So it was all part of the same thing, but it was an amazing thing to me. My first marriage was when my son Aram was born. As a father, I was stumbling around. I didn't know what to do. This little thing, but you live and learn, you live and learn. And the basic thing of everything is that love really takes care of everything, all that love, you just love. And of course, he's like the original Sesame Streeter. I mean, he was in the perfect age for Sesame Street, and he grew up watching me and watching Sesame Street. He was the number one fan, that I had the whole time.
Now, Aram appeared on a couple of episodes of Sesame Street. Is that right?
This is, in his younger years. When he was maybe, 5 or 6 years old, I think he was on the show several times. very, very briefly, and I don't think he ever said any lines, but he was there and he was part of it. Although I think at the time he was a little on the shy side, but that was normal for kids, when you put them on the set and there's all these lights and all these, these gigantic creatures coming at you like Big Bird and Snuffleupagus. I mean, it's like, it can be intimidating, and all these Muppets, popping up and doing all this stuff. So, but yeah, I tried to incorporate him into what I was doing so that he had a feeling of being a part of it, He's a 50-year-old man now. Wow, I can't believe that. My son Aram is 50 years old with a family of his own, and our grandson Eladio is going on 6, I think. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Time flies. So that was my first experience as a father and as a husband. And then later on, there was another marriage in which I inherited several stepchildren, 2 sons that I can't really say that I brought them up, because when I came into their life, they were already beginning to be teenagers. So they were on their way to, being their own human beings. But I think there were many aspects of my life that may have rubbed off on them. And then later, of course, now with when Carol, my present wife, and I got married 30 years ago, along with my sweet wife, Carol, came her daughter, Lauren, who is my adopted daughter now. And she's 35 years old. My gosh. So I had the experience of really bringing up a child, because when I first met Lauren, our daughter, she was 4.5 years old, and came into my life fully, and by the time she was 5. So from 5 until the present day, I'd been her dad, So that has been a beautiful experience of learning for me, how to be a husband and a father and a provider and a teacher and whatever,
Yeah.
So Lauren would have come into your life around the time we were watching Sesame Street growing up and very heavily invested in the Muppets. How did suddenly having Luis from Sesame Street as her dad affect Lauren growing up through school?
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that when she was growing up, I mean, she didn't go around with a megaphone saying that she was my daughter, I don't think, because, she was trying to live her life growing up, and dealing with all of the facets of childhood and school and friendship and all of that stuff. But I think in the long run, she's, and from what I know and what she tells me, she's always been very proud of me and, being her father. And so, yeah, she's very proud of that. And I feel it from her.
Can you recall any particular fatherhood challenges that arose from what I'm guessing was a very time-intensive career for you?
Yeah, of course, being on the show required of me to be in New York. We were in studio for maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. And we did enough material for 131-hour shows.
Wow.
I mean, that was a lot of material to do way back then when the show was an hour. So we were in studio for many, many months. Initially, of course, I was from Los Angeles, and with my first wife and my son, we had moved to New York. And it was cultural shock for us because we were from the West. And here was New York City, fast and furious. And we just couldn't adjust. So after 2 years, we just went back to Los Angeles. And then I commuted for a few years back and forth, which was a strain on the family because, we either had to be here by myself or we had to travel back and forth. And then the schooling and all that for Aram. And the same thing with later with Lauren, our daughter. So, yeah, that was a little bit difficult being away from the family for months at a time. But Carol and I finally got it together. And we just said, that's it. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to be together. So that's when everywhere we moved, whether we moved to Los Angeles or we moved to New York, we were always together. So that fixed that for everybody,
What was it like raising a son off camera at the same time that you were working with a group of children, on set, creating content designed for children on camera?
Yeah, it was, for me, I mean, my personal life was like just part of the whole thing. I mean, I was living my life and incorporating that into whatever I was doing professionally. Everybody had that same mentality, that same feeling of family, and when we all came together socially, it was like this big extended family coming together.
Yeah, I wonder if you could talk just a little bit more about that camaraderie among the cast and crew. I mean, I feel like I've heard you say the word family a few times. Yeah. Would you use that word when you talk about the cast and crew?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think that we turned into an extended family. I mean, you can imagine after 50 years, not only on the show itself as the characters, but off the show, becoming friends and getting to know and love each other and being around each other. And not only the actors on the show, but with a lot of the people that were involved in the production of it, Muppeteers and people in production. It was this gigantic, beautiful family that we all knew that we were doing something that really meant something, that was really good for everyone,
I have this image in my head of you and Bob and Roscoe walking onto set, and the new cast members' jaws must just drop when they see you. You're all legendary.
So I'm going to step back really quick to something that you mentioned earlier. You talked about being part of a big extended family, and that's how you grew up with a lot of, I think you say aunts, uncles, grandparents around. Can you talk about what about that experience did you bring with you into the character of Luis?
Yeah, well, I think that was ingrained in me, being part of a family and being around people. And I do think that one of the important things about Luis and Maria being on the show, for the first time on American television, you saw a couple of Latinos being actual people on the show. They were just these people that were a part of the community. They had their own business. They had a family. It was like showing Latinos and Latinas as real human beings, which was a thing that was sort of absent in American media for many years. People would just come up to us and say, "Oh, you're the first ones that we've seen that actually look and sound like us," So that aspect of American life was never shown really until Luis and Maria came on the show. And I think that was an important aspect of Sesame Street, showing Latinos in a positive aspect.
Of course. I mean, and where it was intended to represent this sort of inner city, neighborhood, of course you need to show diversity. It just seems like such a no-brainer. And so, I need to applaud them for introducing that when they did, and then maintaining that for all of these decades.
It was an amazing thing when this came on, and of course with the Latino aspect into it of introducing a different language, with people who speak another language other than English. Oh my gosh, yes. What is that? Uno, dos, tres, wow, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And kids were very proud of learning another language. It expanded their mind. It expanded their world. Many of the people that were involved in the writing at that time weren't Spanish speakers or anything like that. But we, Sonia and I, incorporated Spanish into the script and kind of threw it in. So one day I'm in the fix-it shop and Big Bird walks in, and out of nowhere, I just said, "Pájaro."
Amazing.
Greeting him, right? We did the short bit, and then John Stone, the director producer, asked me afterward. He said after we take the first take on it, and he said, "What does that mean? The pájaro or whatever it was that you said?" I said, "Oh, pájaro. That means bird." He says, "Oh, pájaro. Okay. Use that." So from then on, every time I saw Big Bird, I say, "Hey, pájaro."
Yeah.
And I think that's what Sesame Street was. And in my estimation, was that Sesame Street, when they were watching that television screen, I always imagined it for those kids as a window into the whole world out there. It was their window into the world.
I kind of feel like it would be a little bit of a missed opportunity, especially when talking about cast and crew and all of the other folks that were involved with the creation of Sesame Street, not to ask you about Jim Henson. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like working with Jim Henson and knowing him personally?
Oh, it was an amazing thing. I mean, every day that we were in the studio, we watched the master at work. He was absolutely an incredible human being, an incredible performer, extraordinary creative person in every respect. And of course, his leaving us was a blow that was extraordinary to each and every one of us. But even so, after all these years of him being gone, it's as if he's never left, because he left such a trace of himself in everything that we do and everything that we show. Because, like I say, such an extraordinary creative person. And I just think of him as a wizard. I mean, he's out there somewhere in some dimension still creating, beautiful things. And I always think of him that maybe the third dimension was not big enough for him. He's gone on to bigger and better things, but he left us his legacy of that creativity.
Emilio Delgado, you are a father, an adoptive father, a stepfather, a grandfather, and a father figure to so many young people around the world. And on top of it all, you're a total class act. Thank you sincerely for inspiring us for all these years. And thanks for your time today, for coming to chat about fatherhood with us on Modern Dadhood.
Appreciate it so much, Emilio.
You bet. Mark and Adam, thank you very much.
I do believe it's time for another installment of
Did I Just Say That Out Loud?
You really are like Bill Curtis.
I'm always ready for it. Whenever I need to be an over-the-top announcer, I'm just always ready for it. I do have a Did I Just Say That Out Loud? And I wonder if this isn't more of a subcategory, actually. Is this a Did I Just Have to Say That Out Loud? So a slight nuance there.
Do you want to revise the title?
The announcer-y thing? How about this? And now for the And now for the very first installment of Did I Just Have to Say That Out Loud?
Also known as Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to see if you can come even close to guessing the scenario. So here's what I said. I said it very, very quickly as I lunged towards my kids. Okay. I said, no, don't do that. It presents some problems we're not familiar with. Which is like, it was the most together I've ever been in one of these moments.
That's something that you would say to your employer or to like a college professor.
Yeah.
Or like a doctor.
This is maybe the only hint that I'll give you. As the words were coming out of my mouth, I was really conscious of what I was saying. I didn't want to make them uncomfortable, but I definitely wanted them to stop what they were doing.
In like a fraction of a second, your brain adjusted from, oh, don't do that, you are about to lop your penis off, to really?
You're not that far off.
to this is going to pose a problem we are not prepared to deal with.
Yeah. And that's really what I was saying, was like, whatever's going to come out of this situation, I don't know if I have the tools necessary to deal with it. So let's just stop now. But you were in the right bodily vicinity.
Oh, I think I got it.
Okay.
It has to do with a vacuum cleaner.
Ooh.
So you or Jamie were vacuuming the living room floor, and one of the twins picked up the vacuum, wanted to see what it was like to clean the floor, and just happened to slide the pants down.
Just
curious.
Just happened to carefully remove his pants.
And you didn't notice that until after you finished adding the half and half into your coffee and stirring it and tapping the spoon on the rim. And then you looked over and saw the pants down. And out of your mouth came that statement.
The sentence. You're close, but it didn't have anything to do with the vacuum.
Okay, let's have it.
Okay. It was hot. Let's just get that straight. We were outside playing. There was a little hose action over there, a little splashy table action over here, and a little sandbox action over here. And so I had two fairly wet children who we had disrobed completely because this is the country. This is New Hampshire. No one's around. Kids were just...
Who's going to see? Brendan across the street?
Who's going to see? So we had two free roaming naked children running in the backyard. Jamie and I were just sitting there. We had each cracked a beer. We had our little $19 plastic Adirondack chairs that we were lounging in, and we were having a good time. We were just talking with each other because the boys were playing so nicely.
It's rare and sounds very idyllic.
It was so idyllic, and it is absolutely rare. I turn and I look, and I see one of my kids has a shovel, a scoop from the sandbox filled with sand, and he's sitting, and my other son is standing next to him, like sort of thrusting his hips forward, and the son with the scoop of sand was getting ready to pour it like right on the other one's penis, and that was they were working together to do this.
Oh, teamwork.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even think about that kind of pain.
That's what I'm saying. And so I sprung from my chair and lunged forward to kind of grab the shovel, sort of smack grab the shovel. And I yelled, no, don't do that. That presents some problems we're not familiar with, because I didn't want to freak them out. So it was kind of this fine line of like, I don't want them to have some weird memory of like their father like attacking them and yelling at them while they're naked in the backyard. But I definitely didn't want a scoop of sand going onto one of my son's penises.
Well played.
I felt pretty good after.
Sometimes when you snap into that sort of emergency fight or flight thing, your brain works fast.
I know how loud my kids can scream. I didn't need that in my life.
I love it. I think that was a great one.
Thanks, man.
Great. Did I just have to say that out loud? Great interview. Great episode.
If we don't say so ourselves.
Dads, you can find us at the all new, or at least semi-new, moderndadhood.com, where you can sign up for our mailing list while you're there to get new episode alerts and more. You can also find Modern Dadhood on iTunes/Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Please consider giving us a quick rating and a review. That is a really wonderful way to support us.
You know what else you could do? You could drop us a note at hey, H-E-Y, at moderndadhood.com. We'd love that. Big thank you to Casper Baby Pants and Spencer Albee for our music. And to you, Pete Morse, at Red Vault Audio, for pressing all the buttons, making us sound real good.
Also, big thanks to Joe at About Artists and to Emilio Delgado himself. And, of course, thank you to you for listening.
Thank you.